Hello, everyone. Welcome to GeekGirlCon's month of Cyberpunk on our Twitch stream. We're in. Good to see everyone. I am Torrey Stenmark. Pronouns are she, her. We can go ahead and go back to the regular screen share, our regular screen. And I'm delighted to be kicking things off for you with Cyberpunk Cosplay. So, yeah. Let's see, what do we want to talk about a little bit? So I can talk a little bit about stuff I've done about sort of cyberpunk as a concept, as a genre, as a variety of different inspirations and different ways you can, I don't know, ways you can build stuff, ways you can cosplay it, ways you can think about it. Obviously, the or one of the classic inspirations is the Matrix. This is my Trinity look, or one of my several Trinity looks. So yeah. Although I will go ahead and take my glasses off for a little bit so I can actually, well, I was gonna say, so I can see your lovely faces, but I can't actually. So, but you can see mine, so there's that. Yeah. So we talk about the Matrix. Let's see, what else did we talk about? We talked about hackers, which if you have not seen, you should go fix that. We talked about Tron, of course. We talk about William Gibson and Johnny Mnemonic and the various cyberpunk games. And if we're here in Seattle, we should probably talk about Shadowrun. Yeah. So, but I want to go ahead and start, I think, with the Matrix, partly, as I said, because I have a costume, and that's sort of where I started, as it were, with cyberpunk costuming. I've been doing cosplay since I was in college. I mean, I was making costumes since forever. My mom taught me to sew when I was a kid, and I definitely did some like Ren Fair and Halloween costume stuff when I was in high school. But is it my first or second? Now I have to does math with the numbers running past my face here for a thing. If I'm remembering the dates correctly, Trinity was my second, like what we'd call a cosplay these days in terms of being a fancy costume, designed for an event or sort of thing, as opposed to just a Halloween costume. My first was Padme Amidala because I am a caricature of myself. Or that's where it started, really. But I did Trinity in the fall of 2003 when Reloaded and Revolutions were coming out. The first Matrix movie was from 1999, and second and third ones were in 2003. So there, so they said, "Oh, we should record this for YouTube," and I did have a moment when I was like, "I should tell them no." Go ahead and switch back over to the screen share for me, please, Taryn. I should tell them no, because what I have in here is a photo of me from 2003. And maybe I don't want that on YouTube for the whole internet to see. But here we are. So the base layer, which you cannot see in this particular photo, is in fact this same shirt that I'm wearing here, but the sunglasses had to be replaced. Those were from Ruby's, which is a company that does not great, but not terrible costumes pieces, generally speaking. Like, they're Halloween costume, but they're like slightly better than terrible Halloween costumes. But the glasses did not survive the intervening years, and I actually ripped them apart to use for a different costume. So these are a more recent replacement, but it's the same thing. The jacket, I appreciate your commentary in chat about the jacket. The jacket did survive. Although even back then it didn't fit quite correct. So this is a photo from this year, from Emerald City Comic Con 2023. So that's a jacket that is 20 years old, which you can kind of see, I'll show you it in person in a minute here. You can kind of see that it's showing its age a little bit around the edges here. But so that was purchased off the rack. And as I said, I did, it was okay, but not great. So I actually did a couple modifications to it to improve it, to make it fit a little better. Go ahead and stop the screen share while let's see where to go. Where to go? Where to go? There we go. But we need to turn it off. Are we off? I thought I told it to turn it off. It's still showing me the background. I was going to show you things, but if it's still doing this nice virtual background, then I can't do that. Why is it not updating? Cool. The chat wants to know which Matrix movie is my favorite. The first one is my favorite. I will make a strong case for 2 and 3 being good, and I really liked 4. So if I had to pick a favorite, it's the first one, but I actually really like all of them. I really like people talk smack about the second and third one sometimes, but I really liked them. I liked the rave scene in Zion. I thought that was important because that's what humans do. I really loved the way they recolored the Matrix after Neo sacrificed himself, that it went from green to gold. I thought that was beautiful. I really, really liked it. And I really loved, parts of 4 were really funny, that in that it was the thing of like, yeah, Warner Brothers was going to make the 4th game with or without you. And it felt very much of a, Lana Wachowski talking about like, yeah, I had to come back because they were going to make it and I couldn't let them take Neo and Trinity away from me. And I loved that the 4th movie made very clear what had been true all along, which is that it's not just Neo's story. Like, it's always been about Neo and Trinity together and their dynamic and their relationship and the way they need each other and support each other. So that I thought was really, really essential. Yeah. And we get a lot of really cool stuff, it's such a... So when you read TV tropes and they talk about the trope namer, I don't know if there's an equivalent for like the trope visuals, but like how we think about cyberpunk a lot of days really is from the Matrix. If it's not from Tron, right? You have the visual of Tron. About that, technology is apparently not my friend. I'm not really a hacker. I just play one on TV, or something. But it's fine because what I think happened is that I was trying to be fancy with the virtual background, and Discord was like, no, you may not. But it's fine because I was gonna actually show you. So again, as I said, this is my Ruby's cosplay jacket for Trinity. This is the actual jacket from 2003. I will prove it. Here are the Matrix, let's see, collection, it says, like so, from then. And of course it's black on black, which is the saving factor here, but this is vinyl, and it has cracked and crazed a little bit over the years, which is just what's going to happen to vinyl. Particularly this kind of, cheap stuff. The inside is sort of a polyester fabricy stuff, and the outside is the plastic probably sprayed onto it, and given enough time, it is simply going to degrade. But it still maintains. I have occasionally gone through and sort of fixed or at least worked on it a little bit, but it does still retain the original electrical tape. see. And again, black on black is difficult to see. But you might be able to kind of see it's actually being held together with electrical tape, not to hold the garment together. It's not falling apart, but to adjust the fit of it, because it's one size. Let's see, does it actually say? It only says one size. It doesn't even say fits all or fits most, or just one size. Which it turns out was slightly larger than my size. Oh, no, you can tell that I just put on the top half because I didn't realize I was going to stand up for this. I'm not actually wearing leather pants. I'm a terrible hacker. I'm wearing comfy work pants. But in order to take the garment in so that it would fit the way Trinity's fits her, I basically, rather than put like actual sewn darts in, I just electrical taped it tighter. Which was a fairly, honestly, a fairly cyberpunk way of doing something to hack it together and fix it. Because that's the thing, right? Cyberpunk is still punk. Punk is about making do and improvising something and, getting stuff done in a way that works for you as opposed to works for the system. Let's see. Chat says, where did you buy it? That was 2003. Probably. I don't think it was Hot Topic, although it should have been, really. Probably either, the equivalent of a Party City or a Spirit Halloween or something like that, or maybe they had them at the grocery stores. I don't know. It was 2003. J-Fun says it reminds me of something you'd see at Wet Seal in the 2000s. I don't know if I do. I do still have a garment that was purchased at Wet Seal, goddammit. Yeah. But yeah, again, it's that sort of thing, and it was meant to look like that. It is, Alyssa, it is kind of warm. Particularly if, so, I wear it with this one is a Wilson's leather, like this is a legit garment. And then you wear it with skin tight, these days I have Gap vinyl pants, like vinyl jean style pants, which are very warm. And then I wear it in Atlanta in late August / early September, and then I die. It's great. I am actually thinking about updating, about making a new version of this jacket. Partly because the sleeves have always been a little short, and again, one size, and I have very long arms compared to what American fashion thinks women's arms should be. So like they need to be a little longer. And partly to make one that actually is fitted the right size in the back. And just so that this is now, I wish you could see my desk, which is now covered in tiny shreds as more and more of the plastic flakes off. So I have the fabric to do that. I just need to sit down and do it. Which would be just take this jacket and use it as a pattern, not take it apart, but like lay it out, trace it onto paper, use it as a pattern. Can you poke holes in the pants? I mean, what, to make it cooler? Then I would have permanent holes in my pants. They don't get, that doesn't, then I would ruin them. The answer is no, they're tight enough that if I put more holes in them, it would just end badly. Yeah. So, that's sort of what I do for this version. And honestly, this version, so like I like the jacket because it does look very cool. It looks very badass and very, motorcycle biker cyber, like this is sort of that classic cyberpunk look. Although I'm not going to keep wearing it. But that is only my third favorite of Trinity's looks. My favorite of hers is the bank lobby scene, which is what the black leather tank top is from. Let's see. If we go back to the screen share for a little bit, please and thank you, fabulous tech person. So this photo here is also from Emerald City Comic Con this year. So I should give credit. This one, first one here with the full jacket and the face mask, is from, as you see, Triple Click Photo, which is my friend Ben Lucas, who does some really cool stuff, and he has this rad photo booth set up at cons with the cool backlighting. I really actually enjoyed, so the face mask, I mean, one, pandemic, but the face mask is actually canon from Resurrections, because there's a brief moment when they're on the train, spoilers, when they're on the train through Tokyo, and there's like a background passenger is wearing like just a standard cloth face mask, and then they get taken over by Matrix bots or whatever, and their face mask turns into the Matrix code, as sort of that signal that they've been corrupted, and I just loved it. And then I was like, hey, that looks even more better now. So let's double click photo. And this is the leather pants here. This trend was shot by my friend Andrew, Journeys in Color, who just is probably my very favorite photographer to work with. Andrew Williams, just, he does this. Like, look at that's like right outside the new convention center. We got the lights in the background, and like I just love everything about this. But this is the Matrix, the lobby scene from the first movie, before Neo is really, before he's the one, before he has those powers, and they just go in, and he's got a duffel bag full of like 70 kinds of guns, and she's just carrying 2 because that's all she needs. And that's probably my very favorite of her looks and her outfits. It's the one where she goes up to the agent and she's just like, dodge this, and just point blank annihilates him. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my favorite of her looks. But my second favorite is not what I'd call, like, in and of itself, it's not very cyberpunk. Which is the bike shop scene from Matrix 4, where she doesn't even know she's Trinity at this point. You know, she thinks she's Tiffany. She's been trapped in this, you know, terrible loveless marriage, and she's got all these kids, and you know, the machines are just piling on the expectations and the trappings of modern womanhood, of, you know, she's constantly driving her kids places and stuff, but she's carved out this moment when she, you know, she can go work on motorbikes, where she gets to be something closer to, you know, closer to herself, closer to Trinity. And so I just sort of loved that moment. And it's also very, and you can see this was taken at GeekGirlCon, not this year, but last year. So it's topical. And it's, so it's, you know, it's casual, it's, you know, a jumpsuit and a tank top and, you know, welding. So that's all legit welding gear, work gear that I aged and weathered a little bit. But, you know, you get sort of more of that, it's less of the soccer mom, you know, you get the tank top, sleeveless look a little bit. And the designer, I read an art, I can't remember the costume designer's name, but I read an article with her where she was talking about the stuff she did for the 4th movie, and, you know, how it's a little bit, how it's in conversation with the first 3, which were done so long ago. And about, you know, how this was actually her favorite of the looks she'd done for Trinity. And like, she's wearing 3 different necklaces. Like, you're getting that, so okay, well, there's 3, right? You're getting like little hints that maybe something's breaking through. She's got those black, you know, they're welding glasses, but they're also still black sunglasses. Like, there's bits and pieces of the real Trinity coming through in Tiffany, and I really loved that. How do you age and weather a piece? Well, it depends entirely on what it is. The jumpsuit, what is my Ripley jumpsuit from Alien? So that got weathered years ago with sandpaper and bleach and stuff like that. The sleeves, I soaked in coffee for a little bit to get the color down. I'm trying to remember if I used real leather dye, but I'm pretty sure I just used coffee on them. And then hit them with some leather conditioner to soften them up a little bit. And I, you know, I could do a lot more on that, honestly, and more for the gloves, but, you know, go through sandpaper wherever something's worn. So like where it bends, you know, whether the creases, whether where it's going to get hit, highlights, lowlights with acrylic paint or dye. If I go back over this one, it might be dye. Honestly, I might use like leather dye. Part of it is just like, I'll take mine out to the garage and just get tire dirt, and I'll like run them through the chains of my bicycle or whatever, wipe down pieces to get stains and just gross out, whatever. Um, yeah, you just kind of think about the story of the piece, think about what it's done, how it's been used, and how that story reflects on it. So yeah, like I said, you look for where it's creased, where it's going to be worn. The elbows are going to take a lot of wear for something if you rest your arm on something. So you just kind of think about that. There's people who are much better at it than I am. I often don't bother, but in some cases you kind of have to tell the story. Can you hit with a baseball bat? Sure, you can hit your costume with a baseball bat if that feels useful. If you're trying to put a dent in a piece of armor, yeah, sure, why not? Depends on how you want to do it, and depends on what's happened to it, and depends on the material. Like if you're trying to put a dent in metal, yeah, you want to hit with something pretty hard. If your armor is made out of foam, EVA foam, maybe you want to use a different technique. If it's made out of resin or plastic or 3D printed or something, you don't want to shatter it. You want to, maybe heat it to deform it or something like that. So you think about it. Yeah. And then the other one here. So again, with the not quite as cyberpunk, but still feels interesting. This is I don't know if he's in chat tonight or not. This is with my partner Joe, and we were doing so Trinity and Tiffany and Thomas, right? They're both still in the Matrix. At this point, Neo's figured out who he is, and Trinity still hasn't. But we got some badass shots walking down the tunnel, and the wind was doing us a lot of favors here to help with our jackets and stuff. So that also, again, is Andrew Williams, who's we just ran around Norwestcon looking for cool places to take photos and found a bunch. And that was super fun. We also, so here's another fun thing that Andrew did for us is he color graded everything a little green, and actually gave me 2 sets of photos. Gave me a set that were whatever standard Lightroom color work you might do, but still the same base, and then everything tinted green. Because again, like the Matrix is colored, which was actually something interesting in Resurrections. It wasn't as strong of a color tint as it was in the first 3. And it was also what I found, I didn't have this idea, but somebody else pointed out to me. The first movies, like when they were in the Matrix, they were in a generic city. Like it was just a city. But in Resurrections, they were in San Francisco. Like it was a very specific place and a very specific location. And like, again, like what are they? The machines have gotten smarter and cleverer, and they're upgrading, and it's just really cool. Hey Joe, good to see you in chat. So yeah, that was a fun shot. Yeah. Do I have more thoughts on Trinity? I can talk about the Matrix for like ever. Let's see. The machines in 4 were salty and sassy. Yes, that was so. Watching them have to adapt to the concept that the machines killed them. The machines killed both Neo and Trinity. Like they were dead. And now the machines are on, like, one, they're alive again because of the machines. They were tortured, but some of the machines are on their side. Like that's so complicated. There's so much to deal with. That we got a little bit of it, and then AO3 gave me a lot more of it, which is good. So yeah. Yeah, let's see. The other thing we don't see very much of, and I get that because it's boring, but you almost never see people cosplaying the Zion cosplays or the ship cosplays. You don't see them in the cozy sweaters on the Nebuchadnezzar kind of outfits. It's always the black leather, and like I get that that's cool and badass and stuff, but sometimes you just really want a comfortable cosplay. Oh, Jayfun wants to talk about hackers. We should definitely talk about hackers. I do go ahead and kill the screen share for now because I have yet to cosplay Angelina Jolie in that particular film. I've done a couple other Angelina Jolie cosplays, but not she's acid burn, right? And he's crash override. Not those. If you haven't watched Hackers, which is from sometime in the early 90s, question mark, it's so good. I don't know which of her looks I would pick for that, honestly. I would need a reference, but I think she has a. Am I thinking correctly of a yellow, like a vinyl yellow jacket? Because I feel like that's pretty iconic. 1995. Yeah, there were so many good movies in the 90s. I mean, there were also obviously terrible movies, but there were a lot of good movies in the 90s. So yeah, but Hackers is great. I mean, Hackers also gives us that sort of wild nightclub aesthetic that's like it's a rave, that we see in the first movie where Trinity first makes contact with Neo, right? Follow the White Rabbit. Yeah, hack the planet, hack the Gibson. Yeah, no, Hackers is so good. So yeah. And you see that sort of visual language of that. And I think, I mentioned William Gibson earlier. I think a lot of it goes back to Neuromancer, which is a very clear influence on the Matrix. And really everything Gibson has done. If you want to, this would be interesting. If you want to look at a modern take on cyberpunk and on Gibson's work, last year Amazon came out with a series called The Peripheral, based on a book of William Gibson's of the same name, which I haven't read, but it is really, really good. And looking at VR in a way that feels it feels classic, old school, but it also feels very, very like it's our modern sense of what VR is and what VR can do, and it's just really interesting. And there's a lot of there's some good social dynamics and stuff going on there, and also there's some cool stuff and some weird gross out there's some weird stuff with eyes, because there's always weird stuff with eyes in cyberpunk. I don't know what that's about. Minority Report had all the weird stuff with eyes. People are, I don't know. I don't want to know these things. The book club is going to do Akira soon. Well, that's awesome. The book club's going to do Akira, which is also a Matrix inspiration. So you should follow along with that. Yeah. So, but I really love The Peripheral. That would be a fun cosplay, except that nobody would recognize it. But the main character has a couple different, very distinctively different looks, depending on if she's in VR or if she's in reality. And those are kind of fun to look at and see. So, yeah. Yeah, and various other kinds of body horror, body transformation. Are you plugging into the machines? Are you becoming the machines? Are the machines becoming you? Who's controlling them? Yeah, like the squid things from the Matrix, the Sentinels, were just always kind of unsettling. And honestly, I think they're in conversation with the Xenomorphs in terms of being black and metallic and shiny and spiky and stabby, and something that is not good. Something that's just always going to set off that, oh God, what, get it away from me reflex, no matter where you find it, if it's pure mechanical or pure biology or both or whatever. So, yeah. Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah, if we're talking Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk, we have to mention Johnny Mnemonic, and we have to mention Cyberpunk. Is it 2077? Is that the year on the new game that just came out a couple years back? Where he's playing Johnny Silverhand. Yeah. I really love how video games these days are like, yeah, so and so actors are playing characters in the video games. I don't think you can call Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West cyberpunk, but they're not cyberpunk. And Carrie-Anne Moss is in the second one. I have a very long list of someday it would be cool to cosplay that, and Carrie-Anne Moss from Horizon Forbidden West is on that list. because her jacket is so cyberpunk. It's like these beautiful holographic, iridescent, like triangle pieces put together to make like a fabric. And it's one of those things where, they've done the body capture and the performance capture so well that on the one hand, yes, you can tell it's CG, but you can also tell that it's still Carrie-Anne Moss playing that character. And yeah, they might mod something a little bit here and there, but fundamentally it's definitely her. So yeah, that's rad. You see sort of a different hierarchy, maybe, in terms of cosplay designs, or costuming designs, in terms of, the aristocracy versus the working class isn't quite the right term, but, you've got everyone in real fancy, pretty outfits. And then you have the fancy outfits that are like, we're here to get stuff done. You know, Possibly in black PVC that looks tougher and less pretty. Yeah, let's see. Reactive light cosplay. Yeah, no, we can talk. I've got a tangent about light use and like electricity in cosplays, but that's a tangent for later. How many different cyberpunk cosplays have you created? Well, let's see. So we have 3 Trinity looks, right? We have lobby scene, we have 2-3, we have the bike repair shop scene, which is just still, I really love that. I actually, so nobody else would care, but I care deeply. I actually went to the trouble of tracking down, and in some cases commissioning the jewelry she's wearing, in terms of like getting the right necklaces, getting the right set of rings. I had my friends at Optimistical Studios do me a set of silver stacker rings, to wear for her wedding set, because it felt very, very important to me, that when she's trapped as Trinity, like I said, or she's trapped as Tiffany, she's trapped in a marriage. She's trapped as a wife and mother. And so it felt very important to me to wear that set of wedding rings. So I had my friends do the least weird of their requests, which was something that's actually in their standard repertoire. They just made it to my size, as opposed to me going, so Adrian, can you custom make me a set of widow's bites? And he goes, sure, let me get you some actual Russian sniper rifle shells for that. Which was great. He puts up with so much weird stuff from me. So 3 Trinity looks. And the other one, a big one I want to talk about, is from 2009. Yeah, 2009, 2010. Which it was from 2009, 2010, okay? And I say that not because I don't like it as a thing, but because I can do more better stuff these days. So let me go ahead, put the screen share back up, if you would be so kind. And this is, so the reason I'm hesitant about this is because it's an aesthetic that doesn't have a story or a character behind it. I just wanted to do some stuff, so I did the stuff, and it doesn't really parse as anything besides, here's some cyberpunk. What it really was is that I had some medieval patterns I'd never had, medieval air quotes, air quotes, air quotes, patterns that I'd never had an excuse to use. And I kind of wanted to do them, but they would never fly for like a real Ren Fair type or something that was trying to be vaguely plausible. So I pulled the pattern, and then I was like, well, I'll just make it but cyberpunk. So I got to use up some weird trim and some weird fabric I had for a while there. So the white linen shirt is actually a legit Elizabethan shirt replica. But like this is literal reflective, retro reflective trim here. And then like I ripped up a bunch of computer pieces and just incorporated them in there. So like the cuffs, I'll show you them in a sec, are keyboard circuitry. And I sort of, glued some random stuff. This one over here, you can see that down the side of the skirt, I just inset a bunch of circuit boards because I thought it was cool, not because it was useful, or there's no reason. So the thing I'm judging past Torrey for, there's no reason for any of this. It's just glue some, just glue some gears on it and call it steampunk, but like just glue some circuits on it and call it cyberpunk. If I were doing something like this now, I might do it, but I'd think about what does it actually do? Like, there's no screens, there's no interfaces, there's nothing useful about any of this. It just exists because I thought it could. And I don't, it should do better than that. um, so it's black velvet. The choice of fabrics and trims and stuff were in some cases because I only had a little bit of certain fabric. So I only used, I used what I could. Let's see. So yeah, you can see the retro reflective effect really well on that there. And you can see my Cyberlocks, which were a choice. They're super fun, but I'm not sure that I should do that. But they're really fun. Go ahead and kill the screen, and I'll just show the details in person, because I was going through my closet. I was like, I'm like 80% sure this still exists. Let's see if I can get it on, or if I'm going to tangle in my straps and die horribly. If I strangle myself to death on stream, I apologize about that. Let's see here. Wait, hey, we'll pretend. So it would lace up. It would show more skin than I would really want to leave unlaced here. But you can see they're literally just glued. So the wrist cuffs are just glued in place, and as you can see, they're only sort of glued in place. This has been held on with a binder clip, because it turns out this is just coated with like 2 millimeters worth of just tacky glue attached to the silk that have completely failed to bond to this, because in 2009, Torrey did not know about the website this2that.com, which is how you figure out what do you use to glue this to that. And I probably would have figured out something else, or simply not done this. But I saved a bunch of electronics for a while, and then just sort of stuck them together because I could. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. Like, why would you have electrical circuits on your cuffs? They don't do anything there. So I do judge past Torrey for that. But I was showing people before we started streaming, I did lace up the back. So this is just, there we go. This is just decorative lacing. But the decorative lacing is in fact the wires from an old keyboard. Like, I ripped out the circuitry in the keyboard connector and just used that to lace the back up, because this is pretty much just decorative. There's also a bunch of zip ties on here. So I guess I have good cable management. I don't know. But past Torrey made some choices. Present Torrey would not make the same choices. Yeah. Is working with electrical things dangerous? Working with cables that I had ripped out of a dead keyboard, totally fine. Like, the keyboard wasn't connected to anything when I tore it apart. It was totally fine. I never did, but I was gonna like chain together the keys with like drill holes in them so they'd spell out like my hacker handle and stuff, and then wire them into things, but I never did manage that. So that's not dangerous. We're going to come back to that again when we come back around to lighting and cosplay. But I do also still have my Cyberlock, which, like, talk about of the time period, like, talk about raver gear from a particular era. But it's super fun, because then you have a million hair, and then you just have a chew toy, or I need to bat at things, or I don't wish to talk to you, go away. Which is part of why I have some additional electrical cabling that I use to sort of tie it back out of my way. And I don't know, it feels kind of like trying to copy locks, which is a thing my hair cannot do, and I probably wouldn't do this particular hairstyle again. Like, it feels a little appropriative. But it is also like, it's really fun to play with, and it's bouncy and sparkly, and I don't know if I could come up with something that didn't feel quite as inappropriate for me to wear, that still uses some of this material, because it's pretty fun. Maybe just skew it like full on Medusa and like put some snakes in there or something, just to go full Cyber Medusa. Reminds me of the Opera Queen from the Fifth Element, the Diva Flava Laguna. It does a little bit, doesn't it? Although obviously her color scheme is blue and not purple. It should be purple. I like purple. It's a good color scheme. This is going to distract me very badly if I leave it on, however. So yeah, but this a bit, I mean, talk about something that's iconic of that particular period. I was seeing people with cyberlocks all over Ren fairs and fairy worlds and cons and stuff like that then, and you don't see them quite as much these days. And like they're really fun. So maybe I'll redo them. Thank you, Prime. I appreciate your vote of confidence in the Cyber Medusa concept. Ooh, you know what? If I ever do I keep toying around the idea of doing a Bowie from the Kraken mascot. And he's got like tentacles and like hair and frilly hair, and maybe I'd do that with some cyberlocks built in there. I don't know. So like, the problem that I have, like I said, the problem I have here is that there's no good story for that character. It's just, I thought this would look cool, and it kind of does, but it also is just bleh. It's just like I vomited a bunch of electronics onto stuff and was like, that's cyberpunk, right? So my advice is, if you are designing a cyberpunk character, any character, but if you are designing a cyberpunk character, think about who they are and what are they doing, and like why do they have whatever they have. And I did actually do, it doesn't show up, let's see. If you give me the screen share again, I can enlarge this photo a little bit and we can see it. I did do a little bit of makeup where I actually glued some bits of circuitry onto my face as sort of, augment prosthetics. And I actually kind of like that. I didn't hate the idea. So again, this is all stuff that I ripped out of, I think, parts of old earbuds and like just random microchips that I had. And I think I probably glued like a couple resistors on, or capacitors, because again, like I had some stuff. I'd ripped apart some old computers. So why not? And I thought that was kind of fun. So like that, I tried to be thoughtful and like try to run the circuitry up through my hairline and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun. The Borg, yes. So yeah, the Borg you can think of as cyberpunk, and sort of that, again, hybrid humanoid and robot combination. So yeah, there's a little bit of that. I don't hate the purple and silver eyeshadow, honestly. Like, that's not bad. Yeah. Could be better, but like not terrible. Yeah, these are from a million years ago. So one of the things, so we mentioned a little bit of Tron. When they did Tron, the glow effect in Tron is literally just this. It's just retroreflective tape that they put on the costume, and then they shine lights on it. So whenever you see them and you're like, oh, they're glowing. No, it's not light up in any way. It's just they shine a light on it, because they made Tron in the early 80s. I don't remember the exact date. But like we were talking before the stream, and our fabulous tech, Taryn, was saying, they just didn't have any visualizations for computers at that time. Like none. You didn't have any kind of graphical interface. You didn't have any concept of that. And so when they were like, here, let's show, here's the grid, right? And Jeff Bridges has a bit that's gets repeated in the Tron soundtrack about like, what would it look like? Would it be cars? Would it be ships? Would it be rockets? I kept dreaming of a world I'd never see. And then one day I got in. We were talking about soundtracks earlier, which Hackers and Matrix both have excellent soundtracks, but Tron Legacy with the Daft Punk soundtrack is killer, and I will hear no words against it. 82 was when Tron came out. The original Tron soundtrack's pretty good, but the Daft Punk Tron Legacy is just phenomenal. So that was just reflective. So that's the retro-reflective trem that I've got going on here. And these days, if you want to do something, certainly if you want to do something Tron Legacy, you see a lot of stuff that lights up in Cyberpunk. And my caution to you is to make sure you know what you're doing, or go find someone who knows what they're doing to help you, which is my plan. Because this is not a Cyberpunk cosplay. This is my Tony Stark cosplay. Who is, make some discussion, have a conversation around, is Iron Man cyberpunk? But I really don't think he is. Maybe like when you get to the comics, like the bleeding edge armor in the comics, when it's actually incorporated into his body with nanotech, and he's actually able to just sort of summon the armor out of himself. That's pretty cyberpunk. But this is from Iron Man 1, when he built the armor in a cave from a box of scraps. And I built that arc reactor myself. Come back. Not in a cave, admittedly, but I did build it completely myself. And I had a very specific plan for it. What if you stretched? I had a very, very specific plan for what I wanted, which was I needed it to be EL, not LED. Because the thing about LEDs is that they're a point source of light. One light. And you can put some sort of diffuser over it to try and spread that out, but it's still a point source. And I wanted a uniform flat glow for my arc reactor. So I got some EL paneling, which, they can do, EL wire is probably the most familiar kind, which is just a single line that lights up. You can get tape, which is what you'd probably want to use for your Tron Legacy costumes, because it's got different widths of like an inch wide strip of light. Or you can get a full panel that's just like a sheet. And I got the stuff that you're supposed to be able to cut shapes out, and like the edges of it are like they've got terminals on the edge that you can just clip things onto. Basically, they've got like little pieces of metal along the edge that you attach your alligator clips to. So I cut that out, and I alligator clipped everything, and then covered everything with electrical tape, and was like, it's totally fine, not really knowing anything about electronics. And if you look closely, see if I can get that to zoom further, there's a bunch of burnt out dark spots in my arc reactor, like that aren't supposed to be there, because the panel basically immediately started shorting itself out. Which but I'm not mad about its existence, because it kind of tracks for Tony Stark to have a sketchy arc reactor, particularly the first one from the very first movie. But wire, panels, you plug them into a battery, but they have to go through an inverter, which transfers it from AC to DC, I'm pretty sure. It might be the other way around, because again, I'm not an electronics person. And you should be, or you should find someone who is, if you're going to do this kind of thing. Because what it does is it switches it to the form that works better for this, but it's more dangerous if you get shocked with it. And I'd done something, and something went wrong with the connections. Something had not been properly taped or sealed or whatever. And I took a shock from my arc reactor. But the thing about the arc reactor is it's in the center of my chest, right over my heart. So I took a very high power shock to my heart, which I did feel it stutter for a second there, which is not a good feeling, let me tell you. So that happened. I turned everything off and took it off, and I put a bunch of more electrical tape on it. And it is in fact on my list the next time I actually wear this to rebuild. I really like the exterior. I like the way it looks. I custom designed that piece of black. It's a piece of paper that I cut out and like measured very carefully and cut out, and then stained with black ink. So it's not like black construction paper. It's got a little more translucency to it, which is what I wanted. So I'm really, really proud of it. It just tried to kill me. So I want to fix that part of it. And I have some friends who have said they know about how to make electrical stuff. And so I will be like, hi, please teach me your ways safely so that I can look badass and not kill myself. It probably wouldn't have not, like, I don't think it's actually lethal damage, but I would prefer not to have that happen again. I did it to myself twice, actually, because I had another piece. So I never did. In the long pile of I'm gonna get around to it someday is Tony Stark's the arm piece, because we see him in this outfit here with the green tank top when he's in the cave building it in a box of scraps from a box of scraps. But we also see him in an outfit like after he gets home from the fancy gala where he's like wearing like his dress slacks and a comfy tank top and then like the half built arm. And I put together some of the lighting for that and I was holding it, just posing around for photos and stuff. And some of the wires started to, again, they weren't sealed. So I start taking shocks to the inner arm, which like the inside of your elbow has very soft skin, like it's very tender there. And so I'm taking repeated shocks to a very sensitive part of my arm. And I'm just like, do you have the shot? Do you have the shot? Good. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah. But the shots look really good. Chat is correctly chastising me, which is fair. But, I think all cosplayers suffer for our art in one way or another, and those are some of the more literal ways I have suffered for my art. Yeah. So again, is Tony Stark like this version of Tony Stark is not cyberpunk, I would say, but I did want to go ahead and talk about the aesthetic and the lights a little bit there. So there's that. Does chat have questions? They're informing me that was pure punk. I appreciate that. I think it was also a little dumb. I'm not gonna lie, but I tried. But I do so if we're talking about punk, like I mentioned earlier, like one of the key things about punk as an idea and as an aesthetic is that sort of fight the power, fight the man, whatever, right? And cyberpunk is very, very all about that. When you look at the video game genres of that, like any video game that's got a big, hacking component. Infamous. What's the recent one? Is it called Dead Dog? There was something like that. One of those things where you have, you're controlling drones and hacking into systems and stuff like that. But it's always some sort of, counterculture, revolutionary or whatever. It's not cyberpunk to do whatever you want with electronics. Just don't hurt yourself with your electronics. But I did have something that I thought was really fun because, and I've mentioned steampunk a couple times already. It's so easy to think of, when you think of steampunk, we've got a very specific visual aesthetic, and it's always the aristocracy, or almost always the aristocracy, right? They've got fancy frilly Victorian dresses and gowns and suits and things, and they have glued some gears to it. And sometimes it's a little more thoughtful than just glue random gears to it. But it is still almost always the aristocracy. And aristocracy and punk are concepts. Like they don't Watchdogs. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Alyssa. Watchdogs. And so I was sort of looking at steampunk and just going like, like I get the steam, right? Steam and gears and Victorian tech. I get that. But where's the punk in this? You are being the upper class. And so a friend and I back in, again, this was like 2010. I want to say this was SteamCon, for those of you that remember SteamCon. And we put together like 70s, 80s punk outfits, but in brown and cream, because it was punk, but it was steampunk. And so these photos are also, some of them are not the best resolution here. But I bleached text into my t-shirt. So steampunk's not dead. And I made a schoolgirl skirt that was technically a skirt. And I put, holes in my fishnets, and I wore Doc Martens. But I did it all in steampunk aesthetic colors. And you can see the photo on the right, which is by my friend Sandy Buskirk. I had the jacket, and you see all the brass and brown leather and stuff, and going for the colors. And the makeup is, let's see, Vix did Susie Sue and the Banshees. I was picking up a particular, it might have been Pat Benatar, actually. I think she's the one who did that. So was going for very specific of the punk, but taking the Victorian aesthetic here. You can't read it. I also really love this photo here, but like there's a bunch of brass safety pins on my jacket cuffs that spell out steampunk, and the text on the front of my t-shirt here is an Abney Park lyric, "A danger to ourselves now," which feels very, very punk. And my friend Sandy and I went down to Gasworks Park late at night. And she brought all her lights and stuff, and we got these just delightful photos of like, okay, let's just really lean into this concept of punk, and also, sure, it's that steampunk aesthetic. And like, I dyed that jacket. It was white, and I dyed it with tea and coffee and stuff, which is one of my favorites. Yeah, okay, that was Pat Benatar. Thank you. And I don't even remember. I don't even remember where I got all the buttons. I think one of those is a SteamCon button, and one of them I think might be a Girl Genius pin. I think that silver one here is a like some weird spin-off or something that Cheyenne was doing or something. But yeah, and like there's still some, like I have the earrings are all old clock gears and beads and stuff. Like there is definitely some. Well, I just glued some random gears on it. But this is one where I really, really still love the aesthetic, and we got a bunch of really great photos of that. So when you're cyberpunking, same thing about like who's the man you're fighting? Like what are you doing? What are you fighting against? What are you raging against? Is it the printer? I mean, maybe. I rage against the printer a lot. But figure out what your character's story is. And then just build something around that. Let's see, what else do I have? Hackers, Tron, Matrix, character designs. There were other. Where'd they go? There were other questions. Where'd they go? There we go. Let's see. What? Okay, so this is from our friendly moderator, Jay Fun. What pieces of a cyberpunk cosplay are crucial to pull off the look? You can take the screen share off now, Taryn. Thank you. What's critical? So, like I said, anything can be cyberpunk as long as as long as you're feeling it. Goggles can be, or like glasses of some sort, or maybe it's like a light up visor, or maybe like they never made Google Glass cool, but like that kind of thing where you've got like a screen or something going on. Obviously the black sunglasses that were so popular throughout the Matrix movies are great. mirrored lenses if you want to go mirrored. You can do fun colors, whatever. I don't think you have to have some kind of glasses, but I think that can really help sell it. A badass jacket is a nice cyberpunk piece. Think about it for like, are you wearing it just so that you look as cool as Trinity and Neo do? In which case, you should definitely do that. They do look incredibly cool. I like that they got badass jackets in 4 as well. Both in the Matrix, they have a couple really sort of nice short jackets, and then they get their nice long coats back again at the end when they go flying and everything. So like a good jacket can be great. It might just be a jacket that looks cool, or maybe it's a jacket that has a lot of pockets in it, which I think is great because then you, the cosplayer, have a lot of pockets and can put all your stuff in them. So, if it's a leather jacket, one of my friends used to have the opinion that like a good jacket or a good, like an Indiana Jones hat or whatever, can become a key part of your identity and your visual aesthetic and everything. And that's sort of, the more you use it, the more story it has visually and, emotionally and everything like that. So like a good jacket can be really nice. Black leather is great. Vinyl, leather and vinyl tell really different visual stories, and I think that's interesting because leather is always going to be more practical. Leather wears better. So like this is also this wasn't even like, this was my mother's. I'm pretty sure that this vinyl, this leather tank top was my mother's originally. I have no idea how long she might have had it, and it's in incredible condition. It's in perfect condition. Like, I will stop wearing it if I stop being able to fit into it. But it's not gonna wear out. Like, you can maintain leather, you can condition it to take care of it. But fundamentally, it's not like undamageable, but it lasts really, really well. And vinyl, as established, vinyl's fallen apart. Like, the jacket, even if, like I said, I'm thinking about repairing it or upgrading it to make it fit a little better, but also because it is breaking down, you can see the texture degrading here. It's just not as long-term of a garment, of a material. So anytime you've got vinyl, it's more about the look than it is the practicality of the garment. And like, vinyl can look really, really cool. It can stretch in interesting ways. You can get a really good shine on it. You can do wet look vinyl. There's lots of cool things to do with that. But it's more, picking vinyl is about the aesthetic. Picking leather can be the aesthetic, and it's also practicality. You can get nice, thick, when you talk about motorcycle riding leathers, they're made of leather for a reason. So, do whatever you want, do whatever feels best, I guess, whatever feels right for your character, but like, think about it when you pick it. And sometimes the choice is based on cost. Leather is often more expensive, but it also lasts and lasts and lasts. So there is that. I know I've told this story on stream before when I was doing some of my other cosplay stuff, but I will share it again because it's such a good story. So whenever you're thinking about something that's expensive. When I was a kid, my dad and I used to go, Dad got me into space, space exploration, space flight, space travel, all of that stuff. And we used to do stargazing, and we had a couple different backyard telescopes. And we'd go to a telescope store where they would sell, accessories and scopes and stuff. And they had a sign on the wall. The store was called S&S Optica. And the sign on the wall said, "Buy the best and only cry once." Because if you buy the cheap telescope gear, it's cheaper. But every time you take it out, every night you're out there, it's going to be frustrating. It's not going to work well. It's going to be hard to adjust, hard to work with. You're not going to get as good of an image. It's going to be a pain and frustrating. So it'll make you cry. maybe not every time, but like it'll make you cry more than once when you use it. And if you buy the best, you cry when you hand over your credit card, but every time you use it, you'll just be so glad you have the higher end stuff. It will work better. You will have a better experience overall. Buy the best and only cry once. So when it comes to cosplay materials and cosplay tools, that's often my advice is like, if you can, save up for the good stuff. If you think that your character would wear leather, save up for leather. Don't go for vinyl. Don't go for vinyl that looks like it's trying to be leather, because it's never going to look quite right. And at some point, it's going to get a rip or a tear or something, and it's just not going to hold up the way you'd like it to. So, yeah. Let's see. What else was I going to say? No, what, okay, now Discord is being weird. What are you doing, Discord? Cease. Technology, it's been a hot minute since I've been on stream, and so some of the buttons are confusing me again. Pick your materials, pick your aesthetics. Oh, what other pieces are crucial to bring up the look? What else is jackets? You can think about weaponry if you want, you know. I was very excited when I realized that. So in the lobby shootout scene, Trinity uses a pair of Beretta, let's see, 84s, which are smaller. Carrie Ann Moss has small hands. So they gave her smaller guns. The most kind of standard Beretta is a Beretta 92. It's a little bit bigger. And you can't find replica 84s. I looked, but what it occurred to me, I have my roommate got a 3D printer recently, and it occurred to me, it's like, hey, I could get models for the 92s, mod them in Blender, and then just print them smaller so they're the right size. So I may do that, and then paint the orange tips and stuff. And of course, if they're 3D printed, they're not real. So you can carry those perhaps at a con. Although you still want to be careful with anything that looks like a real gun, as opposed to like a blaster rifle, which that's all Star Wars out and back. You want to be real careful about anything that looks like a real gun. But for photo shoots or something, maybe if it's a photo shoot not in a public place, that might be cool. So I was really excited when I realized that I can fix the scale problem by just changing the numbers on the printer to be smaller. That made me very happy when I thought about that. Let's see. Do we have any makeup tips? I don't have like cyberpunk specific makeup tips. When if I'm doing a specific character, I pull up reference photos. Sometimes I try and do like a little bit of contouring and stuff to make myself look more like that character. For today, I just sort of did like light powder. Trinity has very pale lips in like the promo posters and stuff. Like their skin is almost completely drained to white. And like very, very pale lips. So I did a little bit of that. Although I didn't want to go too hard on it, because I didn't want to look like a ghost on stream. But yeah. If you want to go heavy on eyeliner and stuff like that and wild shadow colors, by all means go for it. Whatever's fun. If you wanted to if you want to glue electronics to your face, eyelash glue would work fine for like small light. I think that's what I used actually was for the stuff. Spirit gum is great for like, that's meant to glue stuff to your face. So spirit gum. Prozaid is a latex based prosthetic glue, so you can use that. I've always like spirit gum is my default. I like how it smells. It's really kind of piney, resiny, and I kind of like that. And I've never had a reaction to it. If you're going to glue stuff to your face, you should probably test that on like the inside of your wrist or somewhere. Somewhere again where you've got thin skin, so that if you're going to have an allergy, don't have it all over your face at the con. Like test it a little bit in advance. But Yeah. If you're going to use, any kind of metallic, silvers or whatever, check to make sure that it is eyes safe, because you'll sometimes get, or lip safe, because you'll sometimes get makeup that's like, it's fine to put on your skin, but you don't want to accidentally risk ingesting it, so you shouldn't use it as lipstick, or you don't want to get it in your eyes, so you shouldn't use it as like eyeshadow. And that'll usually say, like I've got an eyeshadow palette that's like colors blah and blah should not be used directly around the eyes. And I'm like, but I wanna, because they're pretty. But I also like my vision, so I don't use them there. You can use them like further away or whatever. So pay attention. And like the metallics are or high glitter are more likely to be problematic, because sometimes it's just like the particulates are more likely to get in your eye and damage it. So they have you avoid that. So you'd want to be careful around that. Let's see. Which of the pieces took the most time? In terms of like that purple cyberpunk look that I did, I was actually really pleased with the insets. Those took a little bit of time. So I actually went to the trouble of cutting like holes in the velvet. You can't see any of the details here, unfortunately. But like I cut hole, folded the edges over. You can see I put some like fancy black and silver trim on it, and like carefully sewed them in. And if I recall correctly, there's a lining. Yeah, I backed it with a lining so that I wouldn't have bits of metal. Like there's that piece of metal there, but it's covered in fabric so that I wouldn't have it against my actual skin, because that doesn't sound fun. So like that actually took a little bit of time, and like it's well designed and well executed. It's just sort of this weird hodgepodge of whatever. And I don't even remember what, like I think most of what I broke down for this was a mouse and a keyboard. So I had all these like weirdly shaped circuit boards and stuff that were from all of whatever. So I just sort of attached things to other things. And called it good. So that took a little while to, like I said, the execution is really nice. This one's definitely a mouse, because it used to have a trackball. Like, remember when mice had little balls in them, that you had to clean? This was that kind of mouse back in the day. So and I actually like wove the cabling through the fabric, which is kind of cool. So that took me a while. It just took, is it a Raspberry Pi? No, it is not anything nearly as nice as a Raspberry Pi. Like it was just, whatever my old laptop was in 2009. So the old laptop probably dated from like 2005, something like that. Like it might have been my first one, honestly. It was probably my second, because I know I got one when I went away to college. It was probably the one after that. Kind of like my first grad school laptop. So it was not nearly as fancy as a Raspberry Pi. It was just whatever I found that I could rip apart. Yeah, but it was fun. Let's see. Do I have future cyber plans? I don't, like I said, I mean, everything is, the list is so long. Like, I do still kind of want to remake Revolutions Reloaded Trinity. I think that'd be fun to do, and I have the glasses for it and everything. And she's just, she's a really cool character. I saw, so I'm going to tangent for a sec, but I thought it was really cool, and I feel like our audience might appreciate it. I saw on something online, it was someone, whatever movie characters as Tumblr shit posts kind of a thing. and it was a picture of a particular badass female character, and the text overlaid was, um, you know, I'm not like other girls. Thing actually, I'm an amalgamation of every girl I ever thought was cool. Um, and that hit me way harder than it had any right to for a nonsense Tumblr post. Of the idea of like having modeled yourself on every girl that you thought was cool. Trinity is definitely one of those women for me. Of like, I would love to be half as badass as she is. Um, and I think that's part of what resonated so much for me with the fourth movie. Is that idea of like, sometimes you look at the world around you and you go, wait, is this it? Is this just what my life is? And like, partly it's, whatever, midlife crisis sort of thing. Sure, fine. And part of it is, I think, it's not a bad idea every now and then to reevaluate and sort of be like, yeah, okay, this is who I want to be, or no, this isn't who I want to be, and changing it and just sort of deciding I can break out of these, walls that I'm in. If I decide to, and maybe you decide, no, I do choose this, I do want to be this, and maybe you just burn it all down. And so that's kind of, I think, part of why I do still want to go back to Trinity, is that I think she's just such an interesting character. That, as always, the story of the Matrix is her story just as much as it is Neo's story. It's the story of the two of them together. And so I do kind of want to do that. Yeah. Do I have a lot of other things on my docket between now and next summer? Yes, but Trin's still on the list because she's rad. Are there other thoughts, concerns, questions? Otherwise, channels, chats. I have to complete the set. I like that. So, all right. Well, I think that's most of what I have for today. So let's see. We have another stream. Where did it go? This Thursday, we are playing a game called Lightspeed Dating, which is a deception game where everyone's voice is disguised and we try to guess who is who. And I don't know if you actually need to know your top 3 favorite cereals or if people are just back channel chatting nonsense. But there's a possibility that you might need to know your top 3 cereals. You do need to know. Okay, so figure out what your top 3 cereals are. Life cereal, Cheerios, of a variety of different varieties. And does steel cut oatmeal count as a cereal? I don't know if it does, but I like it for breakfast when I'm not being 5 and eating Frosted Flakes. So, there we go. Let's see. So that's what's coming up next. This is our month of Cyberpunk, so I know we've got a bunch of other cool Cyberpunk content lined up for y'all. They said the book club is doing Akira. What kind of Cheerios? Honey nut Cheerios, but also regular Cheerios. Multigrain are actually pretty good. It varies. I'm sad sometimes. They used to have actual pieces of nuts in Honey Nut, like actual almond chunks, and they got rid of that. It's just flavoring. So sad. So we got a bunch of cool stuff coming up. If you wish to find more of me, you can do so on Instagram and Facebook, where I am Tereshkova Costuming. You can find me on Blue Sky as Tereshkova 2001. You can find me, I'll be at Emerald City Comic Con if you want to come track me down in person, and NorwestCon, where I do a lot of cool stuff with Saber Guild Camino Temple. So you can find me in the Star Wars stuff there. Star Wars is not particularly cyberpunk, but I mean, they do have, robotic hands and everything. So like, they're not cyberpunk. So yeah. I don't believe we're going to raid anywhere tonight. Although if if the back channel wants to tell me that we're going to raid, I will stall until we find some place to raid. But I don't think we were going to. So thank you for watching. I super appreciate it. And I will hopefully catch you next time, whenever that is. And you should tune in this Thursday for Lightspeed Dating. And we stream every Tuesday and Thursday, and sometimes we do specialty streams on the weekends. The schedule is somewhere on our socials. So, all right. Thank you again very much, and I will catch you next time.